What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty, and it's been a while since we've seen this guy, but hey, this guy's pretty much like a lawyer with the work he's got going on, man. You got Pecan in the building. He's back in here for the RFL College Series podcast. I'm trying to slow this music down. But, man, it's great to have you back, man. We're going to get into, of course, the final week of everything that has happened so far in the RFL College Series. The regular season is finally over. We're going to recap those games. We're going to go ahead and reflect on, what teams we thought had, shocked and which ones had disappointed towards the end. I'm going to compare also the first top 25 rankings to the last top 25 rankings to also get even more in depth to see which teams, in a sense, kind of let down or improve from that aspect. But Pecan, man, great to have you back. How you feeling to be back here on the RFL pod?
It's great to be back, Smitty. We're finally here, man. The conference title games are upon us. That's funny that you brought that up because I looked back at your old post too to see like of who we had where, who we thought. So it's going to be fun of who shocked us, who disappointed us, and who kind of did exactly what we expected them to, and I mean, you have been saying it, man. This has been by far the most competitive college series I think we've ever seen. Almost shades of, for any real life fans, the 2007 college football season. It's just been that nuts with how chaotic this year has been. So I'm excited to dive into all of that. So
Yeah, so I only have the graphics for the primetime game, which we called, and what I will do is for the other games, I actually got to pull that up real fast. For the other games, I do have the text, but those will be just for the premier games that happen. So we'll just quickly review that because the premier games are a huge factor in some crazy outcomes that happened this past week. But let's go ahead and first start off with the game recaps, right? So we started things off on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, SEC Iron Bowl, Alabama versus Auburn. Now, this game turned out exactly kind of how we expected it to. Auburn put up just a little bit of a fight, right? They didn't get blown out by 3 or more possessions or anything like that. Lost by 13. TJ Holcomb came out here and still continued to put up, massive numbers and making plays against a very good, solid Alabama defense who just held Auburn down there to 10 points. It was a great showing for the most part. I mean, Logan Goldsberry still was able to handle business. He's doing a little bit better this year. Sean Acosta was eating. But Alabama finishing out the season 8-4. Very unfortunate. We think back to that Tennessee game, right, where they lost off that Hail Mary. And who knows if that was not to have happened for Alabama, they could have been in the talk still to this point, even getting in the SEC championship. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for them. But they finished 8-4, and it's vice versa for the Auburn Tigers. They finished 4-8. What's your breakdowns on this game?
Alabama was pretty much in control of this whole entire game. Auburn had some fight for the Iron Bowl, but they just couldn't get it done. Once again, when you have Dom Beck needing to throw the ball over 40 times a game, it's not going to work well for you guys. And it's just tough for Auburn, who about 2 weeks ago were still fighting for a chance to get into a bowl. We saw them beat LSU, earlier this year. They also beat Clem Clemson as well. So, they've been able to beat some teams, but they just couldn't, get it done towards the end of the year. And you know, Alabama, I think you bring up a good point of what could have been for them, but they just owned this whole entire game. Logan, of course, with the stat line that he had, it looks like a very Logan Goldsberry game and stuff like that. But Alabama, they'll finish 8-4 and they'll play in a bowl. And unfortunately, this will be the first time in the conference title game history for the SEC that Alabama will not be in it after 3 years in a row. So, but hey, they got the Iron Bowl win, and you know it's always fun when you win a rivalry game.
Yeah, definitely was a great game to watch. Well, for the most part, Alabama, we knew that, like I said, control. It was solid. It was
They
solid.
were pretty much
Yeah.
in control. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, interesting to see there. Not really too much to go in off of this. We, like I said, this is kind of exactly how we expected it to go. We'll move on to the second game, which happened on Friday. Now, this game was very interesting. A lot of people even considering it to be potentially the game of the week. And this was whoever wins, they're in for the Big 12 Conference Championship. Oklahoma State squaring off against Oklahoma. We saw Baylor and Oklahoma take down Baylor, and then Oklahoma State get close to taking down Baylor, and they couldn't do it. And so, like, either way, we were kind of looking at this conference with Baylor having to either face either one of these teams, thinking, oh, it's going to be light work for them. But then, of course, Oklahoma showing that they can beat them. They done so, and in that close game with Oklahoma State, it's not a walk in the park for Baylor either way. And both teams really showed out, put out their best performances they could. Oklahoma State almost coming back, and man, like game-sealing interception over the middle was a great play. Dylan Lewis able to close it out. He had 2 interceptions in that game, and Oak State falls short to Oklahoma 20-14. What is your takeaways from this game, and how do you feel? Well, we'll talk more about it when we go into the bowl game talks and stuff like that. But what's your thoughts on Oklahoma's victory here?
There's a reason why they call this sport a game of inches, man. They were literally there at the goal line too. Like it was everything that you wanted out of a football game, is a team getting a chance to possibly win the game. It wasn't like a 3 and out. Like it had all the draw, all like everything you want. Spencer Saunders, who I brought up at the beginning of this year, who for the past 2 years has been one of the worst RFL quarterbacks in the college series. And, he's been a game changer this year for the O State Pokes, but man, the other Dylan Lewis, the defensive Dylan Lewis, he had himself a game. He had the pick six. Is
Mm-hmm.
that correct? Yeah. He had the pick six and the game sealing interception. So Dylan Lewis, he's really has made a name for himself here in the college series, especially this season. And he's definitely going to get some calls on the very first day of the RFL draft. He made his decision to come back for a year, and it's paying off for him. The guy is, to me, the heart and soul of that Sooners defense, and just for them to close out that game, because you're right, man. The Oklahoma State team, they have been not an easy fight for anybody this whole entire year. Like we've seen them against USC, and they came back and clawed their way back to win that game. They beat UCLA. They gave the Oregon Ducks a fight.
They had
They gave the
Michigan looking
Baylor
just like your
Bears.
picture in the back.
Right, like, and they
Yep.
beat them, which I appreciate that. So it's, they have been a tough challenge for anybody. It's not the CS4, CS3 Cowboys. Like, they have been a great team this whole entire year. And, but props to the Sooners, man. I mean, we finally saw Cooper finally, start to play really, really well, because, he had some disappointing showings to start the year and stuff, but he played really, really well in this game. And Avery Rhodes, he played well, but the 2 picks were very costly. If I'm trying to remember how that last drive for them went, but I know it wasn't a great drive. But props for Dylan Lewis, picked off at the goal line to get the win in the Bedlam game. I mean, there's a reason why they call it that. But Oklahoma State now 0-4 all time against the Sooners in the college series, which sucks. So, but congrats to the Sooners team, man. Y'all are off to Dallas. So,
Big time win. Let me go ahead and close this first here. Uh, with that win, of course, as I talked about, Oklahoma going to the conference championship game now to get that rematch. Well, Baylor looking for that rematch against Oklahoma to say, hey, we are the better team, as they are currently the #1 team in the Big 12. But can they keep that position and win the conference championship? This is okay. That's the upcoming game. This is uh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I see what I got to do there. Gotta scroll and pull up the week 14. I had the games there, but it was they were hidden. I was wondering what was going on. Okay, week 13. See, make sure you guys can see this. Okay, so Auburn, Alabama. So here's the 1 p.m. games that we had. Well, the premier games that we had. So Iowa taking on Penn State. Now this game, let me go ahead and move this. Click this. This was
Or Tyler,
not
man.
really too much to talk about, but the part that really sucks about this for Michigan is definitely like after they took those 2 losses, they pretty much left the
They were
Big
in the
Ten
driver's
Conference
seat, man.
Championship the chance to actually get in there, and then now you leave it up to Penn State to just beat Iowa. That's easy, you know. And well, you can't ever say it's an automatic win, but it was an
We'll get to
automatic
that here
win
in a
for the
minute.
most part as they beat Iowa by 28 points. I mean, 38-10, handling business, easily punched their ticket in for the Big Ten Conference Championship. And, you know, Michigan, regardless of a win, if they were able to upset Ohio State
They
or
were
not,
out, yeah.
they were done. So that's how that game went. A lot of these games were just really going to fly by. West
Really
Virginia.
quick about Iowa,
Mm.
really quick about the Iowa to put a bow on their season. Their final play was a pick six.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Iowa went out
To really
bad.
put a bow on the worst team of College Series 5.
Yeah,
They threw a
they
pick
are,
six.
and I don't think we have to reveal the top 25,
No.
25 or the top 32 to even know who the worst team this season was at the end. So Iowa is ranked 32. They closed out with that. West Virginia shocking Texas. I gotta get the bell out here to Texas, man, because Texas, y'all just had to win this game to become bowl eligible. Now it's up in the air. You guys will find out when we reveal the top 25 to see did they still get in or did they get out? But now it was because of this loss that they threw that up for debate. And so West Virginia ends up being the team we predicted was going to be the worst team in the college series. But honestly, late in the second half of the season, these guys have
They
been putting up
came
some good
alive.
games. They've been fighting, doing good, and they beat Texas in an ugly but good game as they win it 13-7. Anything you want to say before we move on, or you want, or we? I'm just going to go through these games.
Really, really quick about the Longhorns. All you had to do was win this game. All you had to do was win this game, and there would be no about, all right, well, who do we put in the bowl game now? Well, you guys are now, your destiny's not in your own hands. And that's very unfortunate. But even when West Virginia was like the worst team, they were still in certain games too.
Yeah,
Like they
very
were
close.
like they are a 3-9 team, but they lost a lot of one score games too. So it could have gone the other way, if things just went that way. But yeah, props to the Mountaineers on getting that win. So
Yeah, Notre Dame able to now get in that hat. There's only 2 5-7 teams after Texas has lost. Notre Dame now is in the conversation after they were able to handle business against Stanford as expected. Really not too much to talk about here. Notre Dame beating the Stanford Cardinal 35-21. Any points you want to bring up from that game?
once again, this is a team that Notre Dame, their schedule, I didn't kind of do them any favors with it, but it was just kind of the way that it fell. One of those teams just had to be that team, and it was them. But this was this was kind of expected. Stanford has not been a good team this whole entire year. And Finn Balor, man, I mean, anybody that has watched the Stanford games, he is a beast, and I hope he goes into the draft. He's been the one bright spot on that Cardinal team, so go to the draft, buddy, because you'll definitely have someone calling for you. So
And this is where we get the bells. Ding, ding, ding. And let's get it out there early. Georgia completely eliminated from the RFL College Series playoffs after a great season they were having after an upset loss to a 3-8 North Carolina Tar Heels team. And this team has taken some tough losses to teams where they should have won, right? And the last thing I kept saying, I said, yeah, Georgia's definitely going to the playoff. There's no way they lose this game. This is why no game is guaranteed. North Carolina came out here and they ended up holding these guys just 14 points, winning 14-21. Georgia falls to 9-3, and North Carolina closes out their season on a good note because, of course, they're not playing in a bowl game, 4-8. So, what's your thoughts here on Georgia having the biggest upset probably of the season to knock themselves out of the playoffs?
Smitty, this is the most embarrassing loss in college series history.
Oh, man.
Okay, you had a layup, just like Penn State with Iowa. Okay, you had a layup. This is not the QPOC UNC. This is not the Miles McCain UNC. This is a 73 overall Drake May UNC. Okay, Drake May is like that in real life, but not in this series. You had a layup. This UNC team lost to Baylor, lost to Miami, lost to all the good teams. And this Georgia team at the beginning of the year, we were all saying, man, this is the CS2 Georgia all over again. Like this is going to be the team. You went from the highest of highs. You came back from 23 to 0 against
Miami.
23 to 0 against Miami. And yes, granted, you took a tough loss to Tennessee in overtime. That is a team that is playing in the SEC title. You go into this game 3-8, North Carolina with a SEC title game spot on the line, and you don't even score the 14th point until you're already down 21-7 with a minute left in the fourth quarter. They threw a pick six that ruined it all.
Yeah, it was
It's
tough
the most
game
frustrating
for young man.
loss.
Extremely. If there is any game he's played good this season, but that was the worst possible game to have, like your worst game of the season. That was really bad. Got to give the bell out there to him in Georgia, man. Still got a bowl game at least to look forward to. But any more points you want to take out of this game, or move on?
And even if you look at all the other teams, and we'll talk about the playoffs here like soon, but it's like, how can you even say playoffs with this team considering all the other 9-3 teams get an extra game? Like, how can you even put them above even if those 10-2 teams lose? Like, they ruined any shot that they had at a playoff this year, and it's sad. It's just they had a chance, and Jaden Young played. And you said it, like he literally played the worst game of his career, and this was the worst time to do it. And but I will say this though, Jaden Bush though, that guy's a stud. Oh, and props to Jeffrey Rozier, man, who decided to stay. I'm sure that I'll say it. I talked to him. I know there was probably plenty of other guys that tried to talk to him to come to like another school, to come play here, but he stayed with, being the only guy, and he got to beat a elite juggernaut in the Georgia Bulldogs in the final game of his career, and now he gets to ride off and go into the RFL draft, man. And congrats to Rozier, got an ACC title win, and but Georgia, man. Georgia. This is, to me, yes, we only scored 2 points in a live game, but at least that was to Big 12 champs in West Virginia with a great defense. Y'all lost to a 3-8 team. 3-8 team with everything in your hands, and you blew it. You blew it!
Yeah, so that tough loss there. Maryland able to finally break their losing streak. These guys went on a 9-game losing streak.
Imagine being 3-9.
9-game losing streak. Finally, 8-game losing streak, and then finally getting their 4th win. They put up a pretty good performance against Wisconsin. I expected Wisconsin to win the game, but Wisconsin's always going to Wisconsin.
They were close. It was close.
But yeah, we're going to get the bell out there for Wisconsin. The Badgers going to have to change that W to a L. But 37 to 23, not really too much to talk about there. within that game.
Yeah. I'll have
UCLA,
to go and look back and add all of like the standings to see whether it was Wisconsin or Florida State this year that still have the two worst records in the college series. So
yeah, and UCLA took on TCU and got to play a bell here for UCLA. Expect them to win this game. TCU was one of those teams where they can look really terrible. We seen them get absolutely demolished this year against Michigan. And they can look extremely
who
bad, and
knows?
sometimes they can look good. I mean, they even beat Tennessee this year, right? So
And
from
they
that,
beat
you have to
OU.
yeah, and so from that, you have to think like, this team can show up at any moment and actually get some wins, and you got to play a game. UCLA's had some pretty impressive wins this year as well, and it was a good game. It was a good game, but TCU for the most part really controlled this, and they just went out right, 35-25. Anything you want to say about that before I'm gonna skip the primetime game and go over to the rest of the premier games, and then I'm going to show the graphics
Yeah,
for that.
just yeah. Really quick about the UCLA game. I mean, that was a tough game to lose because if they still won, they would have had their own deaths. They would have been in the Pac-12 title hunt. Now it all got nullified anyway because USC and Oregon won, but it would have been better to at least finish and look 8-4 instead of the 7-5. Their best record ever is a 7-6, so they would have had their best year yet. But just like you said, man, this TCU team, like you don't know when they're going to show up. They beat the Vols, they beat the Sooners. You just don't know which TCU team. But they also lost to West Virginia. They gave them their first win. So, but yeah, it was just kind of shocking that they lost this game. So.
Yeah, so moving on, Florida taking on Florida State. Got to give a bell to Florida, right? Because they could have put themselves in that 5-7 category as well to try to be one of the one of the teams that didn't be officially become bowl eligible due to the uneven number of bowl eligible teams to be able to squeeze in. They had their last two games was against LSU, and then it was Florida State. Didn't expect them to win that LSU game, to be honest, but at least we thought they could have a chance if
Expected
they
them to
could
win
beat
this
Florida
game.
State, and they didn't do it. Pretty much the same score as the Georgia game. I mean, they lost 21-13, and there's nothing really too much I can say about this except Florida just fumbled the bag, and AR just coming off of two horrible games, threw 6 interceptions against LSU, and half the amount in this game against Florida State, who just was able to end out their season on a really good note. They won their last two games. So shout out to the Florida State Seminoles. Shout out to ESJ. I know he'd be excited anytime the Seminoles able to get victory. One of the worst teams in college series history, record-wise, as Pecan talked about earlier. But anything you want to say about that game before we move on to the Louisville and Washington?
Really quick about Florida, man, is that they were kind of with the Baylor win, we kind of expected more. They also started the year 2-0, if you remember that, but
Mm-hmm.
everything just kind of unraveled for them, and that was just a tough loss to take. And just like you said, they had a chance to be in that window of the 5-7 teams to get into a bowls, and I mean, they kind of end up being a paper tiger in a way. I think that win against Baylor kind of boosted them up, kind of makes Baylor kind of brings them down like a little bit because, whoever you lose to, you kind of want to make sure that the teams that you lose to look good in the end. And Florida throughout the rest of the year did not look great at all. So, but yeah, props to ESJ, man, and Florida State. You guys got that rivalry win, and I think this is the first time that they beat the Florida Gators in the college series. So, congrats to them.
And shout out to a team that did handle business this week to become bowl eligible, and that was Louisville, as they were 5-6. All they needed to do was get in, and they made sure they did
First
that.
ever bowl game.
Washington, yep, first ever bowl game there for Louisville. Washington has continued to show that this was the worst season that they've ever had in the college series. The fall off was extremely bad compared to last year and what they were able to accomplish. They I think they were dead last. I think they are dead last, if not second to dead last in the conference
Hey,
in the
at least to
Pac-12.
Stanford
Yeah,
or Arizona State. No,
yeah.
no, they
Arizona
were
State's
last.
ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
so Washington being
yeah,
dead last, I think they finished the year what 2-10.
yep.
That's awful. I didn't expect them to be
You
that
want to talk
bad.
about the most disappointing
Yeah, we'll
team
get
of
more
the
into
college
that.
series.
But
Yeah.
Louisville to win, it was actually a pretty good competitive game for a little bit. It was 21-21 at one point, but then Louisville just able to separate. I expected Louisville to win this game, and they were able to do so by 8 points, 35-27. Not too much more for me to say about that. What's your thoughts?
Congrats to Louisville, man. You guys have made your first ever bowl game in the RFL College Series. Do we know if they're coming back next year or not, Smitty?
I'll go through that as a segment
Okay.
part, but yeah,
Anyway, still, congrats to them, to Steve Washington, and why am I blanking on the receiver's name?
Reno Hightower.
Um, Hightower, you guys are playing in a bowl, and that's what you want. At least if you're not going to get to the conference title games, you at least want to be able to have a extra game for the scouts to get one more look at you. And you guys are going to get that chance. And that's 2 years in a row now that they've been the Washington Huskies. And man, we'll get into the Huskies later because it was just
Yeah.
that's tough. Like that's tough. So
So Arizona
that's all
State
I got.
has been a scrappy team all year, for the most part. I mean, they finished the year 4-8, but they always put up a good fight. They put up a good fight here against Oregon, on the road, but Oregon handling business, getting it done, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Because if they lost that game, that would have been put them at 8 games. And then, of course, I'll be talking a little bit more when we get a look at records and things like that, as to why winning at least 9 games was very important for you to try to get into a Final Four spot. Oregon able to handle the business, get it done 31-24. And yeah, nothing really too much to say. And a good team just finding a way to finish the game out and put themselves in a good seating as the number one Pac-12 team going into the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, congrats to the Oregon Ducks, man. You guys have made it back to the Pac-12 title game now. Their first since CS3. Arizona State, man, they've had their games this year where they could. I mean, they were another team along with the Mountaineers, where they played in a lot of one-score games that if it could have fallen the other way, this and this could have happened. But the Ducks, man, Ronnie football, man, just keeps on doing well, and they improve. I think they went like 7-5 or something like that last year. So to improve on of what they did from last year, I think we were all seeing this coming when they got Chris Clark, the running back, and Sebastian Black and Garrett Evans coming back.
Even
So
Donovan
this
Faulkner, or I think that's
yeah,
how you say Faulkner.
Donovan
Yeah.
Faulkner has been a beast too. So, Oregon, man, they're now playing in their Pac-12 title game for the first time since CS3. So, congrats to the Ducks, man.
And then we had LSU after Georgia's horrendous loss to North Carolina. LSU was not going to do the same. They had the same situation, games in their hands if they want to go to the SEC championship. They sure enough did beat the brakes out of the Texas A&M Aggies, 45-10 on the road. Didn't matter. Those guys were just absolutely destroying Texas A&M as they. I think Texas A&M finished 2-10 on the season, the worst SEC
Yeah.
team. So LSU, I mean, this was easy pickings. They did not let that opportunity slip. They are going to the SEC championship game for the first time in college series history. And it's all due to the fumbled bag, man. The fumbled bag. And honestly, we'll talk about that Tennessee game, because if they had done that, I mean, Georgia would have been in there. LSU would have been in there. They had Tennessee out if Georgia had handled the business the way they were supposed to. But just didn't happen.
Literally.
Tigers get it done, man. They're going to an SEC championship.
This LSU team, man, like it's so interesting with them because if you look at who they've lost to and who they have beaten, I mean, they beat Georgia, they beat Penn State, who's playing in a Big Ten title game, and they beat Tennessee, who we'll talk more about here later. But the losses. They lost to Auburn, they lost to Alabama, which is a tough game no matter what. I'm not going to give them crap for that, but they lose to the spoiler cocks, they lose to them. And but in that game, they only scored 6 points the last 2 weeks, Smitty, if my math here is correct. After scoring 6 points in week 11, they have scored 101 points in the last 2 weeks.
So they've been
So
definitely
they are
broken.
playing mad right now. I mean, we just saw them. I mean, one guy got 3 touchdowns in a game. Tyler, um, what's his name?
Uh,
Blanking on his name, Smitty, and I'm feeling
for
a sneeze.
LSU,
Save me. Yeah,
LSU,
I'm
Tyler.
feeling a sneeze. It's coming.
Yeah,
I'll make sure to mute.
yeah. I'm trying to think. Tyler. Hmm. Unless you're
No,
thinking
oh,
about Peyton Van Beckhaven, yeah, he had a
Payne.
game
Yeah,
where he had 5 touchdowns the prior week in one game. So like, yeah, and,
yeah.
and I think that's
But
either
yeah,
tied for the record or he has the record with that. So yeah, they've been hooking up
but
big time.
LSU has been killing it the last 2 weeks. 101 points and 27 points on the other side. So this LSU team is on fire right now, going into the conference title games, and this is their first one. So, yeah, no Alabama, no Georgia, completely two new teams in the SEC title games for the first time in 3 years.
Yeah,
So,
and if LSU is able to win the SEC championship, of course, more than likely they're granted. Ain't no more than likely. I'm pretty sure that solidifies them as being one of the Final Four teams, and that would be the last time that LSU had made it since Geno Gannon era in CS1.
CS1,
So I
yeah,
mean, that's a huge achievement right there for that team for you know Aiden Seminole, who was there last year, had went through some struggles, and now look where the team is now. They're playing good football. Was able to bring
yeah.
some good players in
Got
to really
himself some
bolster this team.
guys, and look, yeah,
Yeah, so LSU really has came up big time. We'll see how they fare in that SEC championship with a team they've already beaten. South Carolina, scrappy team. This was one of the best games this week. And anybody didn't see that South Carolina and Clemson game, man, because South Carolina was already 6 wins in. They're going to a bowl game, so they were good, but they still wanted to get a win over Clemson. Clemson, for one, this is a real life rivalry that these guys have. So this is a big time matchup that they were looking forward to. Clemson, at the end of the day, they're the ones who needed this win, and they literally
big time.
were down 17-0
17 to
in this
7.
game. And I'm gonna be honest, as I was recording, I was like, man, I think Clemson done fumbled the bag just like Georgia, and it's over. And these guys came back, scored 17, sent the game into overtime, and it was an amazing drive by DJ to close out the game through a touchdown that won it in overtime, 23-17, and now they improved to 6-6, dropping South Carolina to 6-6. Both teams bowl eligible though. Tough loss for South Carolina, but a huge win for Clemson to salvage the season.
And they finished the year 7-5, Smitty, and
Oh, 7-5. Yeah, my bad.
They are on a 5-game winning streak. They started the year 2-5, Smitty, with losses to Texas A&M, that same UNC team that we talked about.
Oh, real quick,
They
man, I
had some
messed
tough.
it up then. I don't know what I was thinking about because Clemson clearly had 6 wins. I was meaning to talk about the ACC. They needed to win this game to go into the ACC championship game. That's what I meant. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because if they would have lost this game,
they wouldn't have been in.
Louisville, with them winning, Louisville would have went.
Yeah.
But Clemson, with them winning, they got the 7th win. Didn't have to worry about the cards. And Clemson's playing in the ACC title game for the second time ever in the college series. And gotta say, to the South Carolina Gamecocks, they do like to spoil anybody's season, though. I mean, they are a tough team to beat, and as we've seen them this year, they are not going to be an easy team to play against in the Bulls, and they haven't been last 2 years. Even when they went 5-7 or 4-8
And
last year, I can't
CS1,
remember.
they used to be scrappy too. every year.
Right, like, in every college series year, they have always been a team that, like, even if they don't look good, they are gonna play you in those 20 to 23 games, so, but props to them on getting those, wins that they needed to get into in the bowls, but the Clemson Tigers, man, they're now in the ACC title game and riding on a 5-game winning streak, so
Yeah, that was a big time comeback by those guys to flip the season around. Um, and I think that's the last premier game that we had to go over. So now we can go ahead and close out of this. Let's go to what the conference championships will be. We'll shut that off.
oh,
And
no, we
then
still got 3 live.
yeah, that's I got the graphics for that though. All right, so let's go ahead to what those last live games were. So of course we're now getting into your team's game right here, Pecan. Great matchup it was. Ohio State taking on Michigan. High scoring game, a lot of excitement. And Ohio State ends up winning their 10th game for the third straight season, 42-33, as they were able to best the Wolverines to flip things back around to get another shot at competing for another national championship. Man, I'm gonna let you go ahead and break down into this game and yeah, I guess whatever you don't get into, I'll get into.
There's a reason why they call it not just they call it the game, Smitty, and what a game it was. It's the greatest rivalry in all of sports. It really is. And for us to go out there and lay 42 points on that team up north and win in the big house. And they probably tried to take all of our signs and everything, but it was to no effect. We went in there and we stomped on those Wolverines and came out there with a 42-33 win. Now, it did look scary there for a minute. At the start, I was like, whoa, what
Yeah, it
is
was getting
going
bad,
on?
13
And
nothing. I
then
was like, well, hold on now.
and then we go on a 28-point swing. And then Wolverines, they start coming back a little bit and they turn it into a game. They had that kicker kick like 2 59-yarders or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I was like, whoa, like there was some wind blowing in that direction that I could tell because when it was when the kick us were going the other direction, it was being blown back. But it was just a great game. Dylan Lewis, 6 touchdowns, 6 total, 4 passing, 2 rushing. And also another thing that I want to bring up, and we have talked about this at the beginning of the year. What was the one area that the Ohio State defense was having the biggest issue was?
Oh, you asking me? It's D-line pressure.
Yes. Getting sacks. And if you've been watching Ohio State these past few weeks, what has started to come alive for this team? The defensive line is starting to finally get sacks. And we've seen it throughout the last 3 or 4 games. And Steve McCaskill, my buddy, he rocks the OU logo, but he plays for us. He had a pretty big game. Arturo Flores, man, we got about like a bunch of euros. Like we have euro, euro, and taro, and I realized that the other night, and I was like, "There's euro, turo, taro." It's rose, and they all played great. But the only thing I will say is run the ball, Buckeyes, run the ball. But hey, man, that team up north, anytime that we can go up there to the big house and ruin your guys' season is A-okay with me, man. Because I hate you guys. And to see you guys lose to us is always a great feeling every single year. I look forward to it every single time and let it be known that I went 4-0 against this team in my 2 years. Now these guys can say that they are 1-0 and we have won 5 in a row against those Wolverines, man. So yeah. Sorry, I'm pretty biased right now. I can't help it, man.
It's
This
all
is the
good. I
game
mean,
I
you
was waiting
guys,
for.
this game, you won. You get to talk. So, I mean, good win there for the Buckeyes, and of course, it's a huge game for them because even if Michigan wants to win, they at best they were going to be 8-4 on the season. You guys, in a sense, needed this win because now this helps you, regardless, going into that Big Ten championship to a team that you lost to way back in
We're
Week
in the
5.
driver's seat.
If you
Right.
guys are able, like say for instance, Penn State gets back in that mode again and they beat y'all like they did before that 30-16 game,
Right.
you guys got
And
10
we would
wins,
have
so there
lost
could be
this
a
game.
chance even with a loss, but we really don't know. It's still very slim, but at least having
We'll have
those
to,
10
yeah.
wins doesn't 100% eliminate you from being in there with a loss in that conference championship game. But yeah, great win there for you guys. We'll go ahead and move on to the second to last game, man. Tennessee dropping the ball against USC. Play the bell for them. And I wish we had a cheer button for USC, because if USC had lost this game, they would have been 100% eliminated away from the playoffs, even if they had won the Pac-12 conference championship, because they would have only had 8 wins. But now with this win, this huge upset over at the time the number 1 team in the country, USC now improves to 9-3 on the season, same record as Oregon. And now it looks like more than likely whoever wins that conference championship game will be playing
It's playing for a
in the
playoff.
playoffs. So I mean, this is crazy, because you think about the last 2 years for USC, had a beast of a quarterback, just a beast of a team, period, with Calvin Poole. Guys were kind of sleeping on USC for the majority of this year. You know, we saw some of their loss. They lost to Stanford. It was like, what? And, you know, we just lost faith in them. But little by little, week by week, they were winning games. And then they come out and do
They've
this.
been like us, man. They have came back.
Yeah, and then they come back here in the last game of the season against a fired up Tennessee team that was the number 1 team in the country, probably for the first time in the college series history. I have to go back and check that at any point in the season. And the Trojans take them down, and pretty soundly. Like, it was a rough game for Tyon Nickerson. I mean, 3 interceptions in a game sealing interception by Covington, who had 2 within this game. And Cardenas, man, he's got to get some flowers.
He played great.
4 touchdown passes, 300 plus passing yards. Honestly, I would have to say this is his best season, compared to the 2 in which he had
And
at
I would say
Clemson
that this
before the
is his
transfer.
best,
He's had some really
his
good,
best
solid games.
game.
Of course, you've seen some games where he played pretty bad. We can bring up that Stanford game, but he really has
And the Oregon game.
sharpened up, man. Yeah, that too. But he's really sharpened up in big moments, and look at where they are now. I mean, it was a horrible performance, like I said. I mean, Tennessee's defense was Swiss cheese for the most part throughout this game, man. I mean, they were absolutely just getting moved on with ease, and that's just not a good sign if you are Tennessee, especially moving into this SEC championship game against an explosive LSU offense. But we'll talk more about that. But what do you want to say more about this matchup here with USC defeating Tennessee 35-21?
The irony of Glenn Sharp donating money to the live game, and as soon as he donated money on National Tight End Day, number 89 for USC gets into the end zone 3 times
Lane Carney
in that game, Smitty. But man, is this the first time that a number 1 and number 2 team lost in the same week? On just like a random week of the college series? Like
Not really sure.
both
We
number
definitely would have
1
to look into that, because I'm
and
pretty sure we've
number
seen some.
2 both lost. I've never seen that. I mean, we have seen ranked teams lose, but I've never seen in this college series the number 1 and number 2 team lose. I mean, this Tennessee team, man, like, I mean, pretty much after the Georgia game, in my mind, I was like, Tyon's gonna win the Mackey Award. But now, like, a Mackey Award is wide open again. Like, it's just he did not play great. And when he finally had the chance of making it a game, when they were down 35-21 with like maybe 5 minutes left in the fourth, what you get a score there, it's now 28-35, and you get a stop at the chance to tie the game. And he throws a costly pick in the end zone. And, it's one of those games where Tennessee now, your playoff hopes. I mean, USC, this was a game that they needed to have if they wanted to keep their playoff hopes all alive. Tennessee can take a loss and still have their playoff hopes. But this was a game that USC did not needed to lose, and they went out there and they stomped over the Vols, man, because I was not expecting this. I mean, Tennessee, they've been playing with fire for a while. They've had 3 overtime games this year, and they almost lost to a 2-10 Texas A&M team the last 2 weeks. Yes, they did beat Georgia last week in a pretty big game, and of course they needed a Hail Mary to beat Alabama, but just a tough break for Tyon, man, and those Vols to take a loss in the final, game of the regular seasons, and then now, just like you were saying with Ohio State and Miami being those 10-2 teams, like this was a chance for them that, like, hey, even if we lose to LSU, maybe things can happen, but props to the USC Trojans, man. I mean, after that tough loss to Oklahoma State, they came back and they keep their playoff hopes alive. So I'm pretty excited to see these other games, man. But yeah, props to the Trojans, man. And to me, Cinco has played better games, but in the primetime games, it's mainly the primetime games that he's kind of been like,
Been stepping
you
up.
know,
Yeah.
this was the game that Cinco Cardenas needed to have in a primetime game, and he finally did it. So congrats to him, man. And yeah, that's all I got to say.
Yeah, and another person I want to shout out here, USC's generic wide receiver, Kari Crosby. That guy has been making crazy catches all year, and I remember that one catch he threw it up, took it right off through the air, bagged the dude, and
That was an amazing
dude
catch.
was just absolutely killer this year. And that 1-2 punch with uh Ajon Grant was just crazy. He's got some great weapons out there, and it's good to see that Cardenas is out there finding them. And then for the final game, not going to get into everything else that happened extra after the fact, but Baylor and Miami, this game did live up to its hype in my opinion, even though it was a two-score game, 14-point deficit with them with Miami winning 3 out of the 4 matchups in this rivalry that was built up in the RFL College Series. 27-13. Miami handling business, getting a much needed win as well, so that they can get their 10th win of the season, which also gives them chances of, if they lose this game, depending on if lower recorded teams win, they got a chance to potentially still be in the playoffs. So this was a huge win for them. You think back in this rivalry, right? The first matchup, we were just talking about this before we hopped on. The first matchup, Baylor having these guys completely blown out the water, thinking it's over 31-7. Miami coming all the way back for that win, starting out 1-0 in the series. Second game coming out, Miami just completely handling business in that one and beat them 38 to like 17 or something like that. And then
27.
27, yeah, 38-27. So they were just pretty much handling them in that game. Then you saw last year to come back and beat them 19-17 to ruin their perfect season, where they could have literally went 12-0, and of course we already know what went bad later in another loss to Ohio State in the playoffs and everything. But at
And you
that
can
point, that was
see.
the first win for Baylor, and although Miami had those 2 wins, it almost felt like, I was telling Pecan this, is like it was 1.5 games, and so like came down to this game, and Baylor, they just obviously at that time was not the better team. They could not pull out this win. The defense, Miami defense, was just really straps out there when it came to the man-to-man coverage. Receivers were still out there making some good catches at times, so I will have to say that we saw some good catches from Shamir Williams. He was able to get in the end zone. We saw some good catches on big conversions that were needed by Michael Simmons. But at the end of the day, the defense of Miami continues to be its strength. But what I was most shocked with the most out of this game was the presence of Miami's offense all throughout this game. I mean, it may not have been a lot of points on the board here that you see with 27. That's a decent amount, but this offense was moving, and that's something I thought that we wouldn't really see within this game, and that shocked me as they walked out of this with the victory. What's your thoughts on this game?
The thing is with Miami in this game, as you see on the screen there with the stats, that tying in was killing the Baylor linebacker who was ever
Nope.
covering him. He was having himself a day, and then Jaheim Devontae was getting a bunch of slants, and They got Mincy involved. Dorian played a really good game, because you never know what you're gonna get with Dorian, man. Dorian, along with some of those other guys like Dylan Lewis and like Jaden Young, you don't know which version you're going to get on a certain day. And Dorian, he played a great Dorian type of game of where it's the good Dorian, and Dorian played really, really well. And Miami, man, they're just a tough team to beat. And those were the matchups that I was wanting to watch. But Jordan missed some easy throws too, where they could have had some of those key plays. Jordan missed some pretty big time throws. Um, but the thing is with Miami that we saw with them a few weeks ago, when they have to be balanced. They cannot be a team like, yes, Ohio State can kind of get away with Dylan Lewis just throwing the ball the whole entire game. Miami cannot. And we saw that for one half a few weeks ago against a elite team, and Miami has to be balanced, and that's what they did in this game. They got Allen involved as well. They mixed it up, and Allen was running really great and had some really great plays. Baylor, though, honestly, the one thing, yes, Shamir and Simmons, but Fitzpatrick, I felt like the whole entire
He
game
was
was their
killing.
only guy that could get anything going, and he was killing it. Like he was playing great. Um, but they just couldn't. Um, Baylor couldn't get after the cornerback, man. I don't think they sacked Dorian like maybe once or twice. Like they couldn't get after Dorian. Jordan, they made Jordan very uneasy. Yes, Luis didn't really. I don't know if Luis got any sacks or not, but Miami made Jordan Granger very uncomfortable in this game. And props to Dalen Mitchell, man. He had the big pick there right at the end of the game to seal it, even though the game was kind of out of reach anyway. But for him to get that pick is pretty huge. And I've always been a Dalen Mitchell fan. So, but yeah, with Miami, they play the game that the Miami offense needs to play, which is a balanced attack. Don't let Dorian throw 60 times a game. Keep it balanced. Get Isaiah Allen the ball, and Allen had a great game as well, man. And Miami now moves to 3-1 in the rivalry, and you know. Props to Miami, man. They, along with Ohio State, is a 10-win team, and I'm very excited to see how these conference title games go.
Yeah, and I liked how one thing also I liked about this game that you mentioned, man. I think both teams really came out here for the most part balanced, right? That's what made it interesting because usually it's very
Right.
one-sided for one team, but that's what made this game very interesting and exciting to watch throughout its entirety. You see the 18 carries for Fitzpatrick, and I know you say 18 is really not a lot, but in terms of, sometimes we're seeing guys get 11, 10, 9 carries in the game,
Literally
and the same deal with Isaiah
seven,
Allen.
6.
Yeah, to get 21 carries for him, to get the 88 yards off the 18 that we saw, same as Davey Fitzpatrick, also getting used out the backfield to catch. I mean, this was a very entertaining game to watch. Definitely lived up to the game of the week hype. But Miami's game
Yeah,
for
was
sure.
like ours, where I think Ohio State ran 17 passing plays before we finally handed the ball off to
Yeah, that was
Euro,
crazy.
you know? But in this game, both offenses needed to be balanced. Passing game for Baylor wasn't 100% for them like Miami's was. As Miami, their passing game was at least on point to get the plays to men. See, RAC, he didn't have a very big day, but he made a couple of clutch catches in that game. So, but yeah, they gave Isaiah Allen the ball when he needed to get the ball. And, Miami's passing game and the running game. If Miami is balanced enough where they don't make Dorian throw the ball the whole entire time, this offense can go. So,
Yeah, so, man, great week. Great week of excitement. We didn't know what was going to happen at times, and what happened here? Yeah, we didn't know what was going to happen at times in some games. Uh, and got some shocks like we talked about, Georgia losing, stuff like that. And so now we're about to get, actually, I got to pull up, make sure I don't have anything else to touch up on first before we move on. So yeah, we get the recap. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and get a look at the standings real fast in the RFL College Series. So let's go ahead and get a look at that. Just to see how each team finished out this year. Then that's when we're gonna go ahead and talk about, the teams that we feel let down after we look at the week one top 25 rankings as well. So first off, starting the ACC, this is how the standings went. Miami, the number one team currently in the ACC, of course, going to that ACC championship game to play number 2 Clemson. They finished the season 10-2. Clemson 7-5. Louisville 6-6. Notre Dame 5-7. North Carolina 4-8, as well as Florida State. Those are the standings. If anybody's got the link from the Discord to put that within the chat for anybody who's new who wants to see these, please put that League Lobster link in the chat for me. I much appreciate if you do that. The SEC, we have LSU currently the number one team, huh?
Georgia lost to a team with a negative 93-point differential.
Oh man, let's play the bell. So yeah, that's a good find right there by Pecan. So yeah,
Props to the ACC, man, going 6-0 to end the year too. But Georgia, negative 93-point differential, man.
Yeah, that's tough.
Oh,
LSU, number
go
one
on.
team in the SEC right now, going into that SEC championship. They finished 9-3, three-way tie record-wise with Tennessee and Georgia, but LSU beat both Tennessee and Georgia, which is why they're the number one team. Tennessee at number 2, Georgia number 3. Alabama finishing the season 8-4, as we talked about. South Carolina 6-6. Florida 4-8. Auburn 4-8, and Texas A&M 2-10. Then we get into the Pac-12, the way the season finished out. Oregon, number one team right now, going in the championship game, 9-3, as well as USC at number 2. UCLA 7-5. Arizona State 4-8. Stanford 3-9, and Washington, I know we're going to talk about them, 2-10 to finish out the season. Big 12, Baylor on top as the number one team currently, 9-3. At 2, who they'll meet in the SEC in the Big 12 Conference Championship. It's Oklahoma once again, looking for that get back game. They finished the season 8-4. Oklahoma State 7-5. Texas 5-7. TCU 4-8, and West Virginia 3-9. And then for the final conference here that makes up the RFL College Series, it's the Big 10, Pecan's favorite conference there. Ohio State number 1. They do it again to finish out the regular season, 10-2. Penn State is going to be their opponents this time in the Big 10 Conference Championship as they finish the year out 8-4. Michigan 7-5. Maryland 4-8, as well as Wisconsin. And the final team, which is dead last in the RFL College Series, Iowa, finishing out 2-10. So those are all the standings of the conferences in the RFL College Series. We'll also now get a look at the let me see. Oh yeah. Also, of course, any of these teams that are bowl eligible, you already see the ones who had 6 or more wins. After I reveal the top 25, you will know which of the 5 and 7 teams, which is Notre Dame, as you can see here, and Texas, which is in the Big 12. Those are only 5 and 7 teams. We'll see which one of those have made it.
Really quick, what was Iowa's point differential? Really quick.
Negative 192. Yeah. Arrogant doggone. I think that might be the highest. Is it the highest one?
That's the highest. Stanford was the second highest I saw with the negative 183. So I was wondering if anyone's going to beat them. 189.
Yeah.
Oh, they were close. Oh gosh.
That's pretty bad. But who outscored the most? Let's just look at little stuff like that. Miami 177. That might be the highest I see. Yeah, Miami outscored more teams than anybody at 177.
Well, the point
point
differential of who.
Yeah,
I do want to know who actually scored the highest amount of points. Let's see. We had 393, 364,
349 for Miami.
Wow, was it us? Holy crap.
364 for Oregon. Yeah, it's definitely Ohio State. 393. No,
Yeah.
Michigan
Who was it?
401. Wow.
Oh,
How do you do that and still not make the conference
losers.
championship? That's tough.
Losers.
They were putting up points
All
on
right,
teams
go
this
on.
year. But yeah, okay, now let's
They
go ahead
were.
and get a look at we talk about bowl eligible. Uh okay, our disappointments, but before we get into that, let's go get a look at week one's top 25 rankings. Oh, showed the wrong one. Uh oh, did I? Oh man. Don't look at that one, guys. But
Don't
let me
look at
see.
it.
There we go. I don't even know
Don't
why
look at
this
it.
is out of place. So this was the top 25 from week 1, right? And so when the season first started, Ohio State number 1, Bama 2, Miami 3, USC 4, Baylor 5, Oregon 6, Tennessee 7, Georgia 8, LSU 9, Oklahoma 10, Clemson 11, Auburn 12, Michigan 13, Penn State 14, Texas 15, Florida 16, Wisconsin 17, Washington 18, Notre Dame 19, South Carolina 20, Louisville 21, Arizona State 22, TCU 23, North Carolina 24, and Texas A&M 25. That was the original. And now, since I've already shown it, I guess we could get a look at the top 25 now. Let me go ahead and
Honestly, that's not too bad to where we
that
thought
wasn't really
teams were
off.
going to be.
Yeah, I was
Honestly,
looking
I
at.
mean, besides the Auburn one, but that's fair. But Washington out of there is the biggest disappointment
Yeah.
out of anybody because of the talent that they had coming to that team. So,
And here's a look at the top 25 now. So let me go ahead and minimize this. So this is the official top 25. This week, Ohio State has jumped back up to the number 1 team in the country. So that's, I know guys are who aren't Ohio State fans are hating this because this team right now again in the talks to try to win a third straight national championship. They are number 1 at 10-2, and of course Miami the only other 10-2 teams at number 2. You had LSU at number 3 now at 9-3. Oregon number 4 9-3. USC number 5 9-3. Tennessee 9-3 at number 6. Baylor at number 7. Georgia dropping all the way at number 8 as the lowest 9-3 winning school. Alabama the best 8-4 winning school at 8-4. Of course, Penn State at 8-4. Oklahoma at 11. Clemson 12. UCLA 13. Oklahoma State 14. Michigan 15. Louisville 16, South Carolina 17, Notre Dame 18, Texas 19, Maryland 20, TCU 21, North Carolina 22, Wisconsin 23, Florida State 24, and Florida 25. And as you mentioned here, Pecan, looking back, comparing this to, the week 1, it wasn't really too crazy off
no.
from what the predictions were, but there definitely were some guys who shocked and some that disappointed. Of course, I'm gonna let you go ahead into those ones. I'm not even gonna say anything because my list just shows it. What I had pretty much. So
Yeah.
this is now up to you to just talk about who your
Pretty
shockers and
much to
disappointers were.
me, like the teams that shocked us, because I went back and looked at your conference things, like of who you had, and I think I agree with you. I don't think anyone expected the UCLA team to be all the way up there and do what they did this year. I remember in week 1 when they lost to Alabama 24-10, we were like, all right, Bama, like, do y'all like just stink or something? No, this Bruins team was actually really good, and they finished 7-5. They're going to get into a bowl game. I don't think anyone really saw this Oklahoma State team really making any noise like they did this year. Um, the biggest disappointment is the Washington Huskies by far.
They're
Um,
not even on the list. They were 18 in week 1,
no,
not even on the list.
yeah, and they went to 2-10. Really, And this is nothing, and folks can say that I'm biased and stuff like that, but I guess with Ohio State, like I would even put Ohio State right above Miami right now, just as far as like as recently of what's been going on. Ohio State's on an 8 game winning streak. Miami has lost two out of their last four, you know, and we saw them lose that game to Georgia, which isn't like to like say that they're bad, but then they also lose to the Clemson Tigers in week 12. So Miami, if you go with recent trends, Ohio State's been on the up and up. Miami, they're still a great team. And honestly, I say they're pretty evenly matched teams. I agree with LSU at 3, Oregon at 4, USC at 5, Tennessee at 6, Baylor at 7. So now this opens the door of is this has been the craziest year, Smitty. This has been
Yeah,
the most craziest year of college series play we have ever seen. And I mean, for Baylor needs some help.
yeah,
I mean, one this Baylor team, and this is why I would have put them there over Georgia, because with Georgia, you if you're gonna lose to a 4-8 team out of the three lost teams, you're gonna be on the bottom, even if you have wins over a few of these schools like the Ducks. But the Baylor Bears, man, they've had one of the easiest schedules the whole entire year out of a lot of these teams that are playing in the conference title games, and we've talked about it how they can't play a full four-quarter game. Their one loss is now to a 4-8 team until they played against the Oklahoma Sooners, and Oklahoma has played some tough teams. They are battle ready. Like they lost to Oregon, they lost to USC, but they've also beaten some other teams. And the Sooners, they came in and punched them in the mouth. And it's like how physical is this Baylor team? And they're going to need some help because actually, okay, so if we're looking at it, I mean, they will probably need either Miami or Ohio State to lose, but they have to win first. They have to win first, which we'll find out. I think they are. We'll get into that. But if Miami doesn't lose, they will probably need to rely on Ohio State to lose if they want a chance. Because out of Tennessee and LSU, whoever wins, they're in. And whoever wins between Oregon and USC, whoever wins, they're in. So you guys are going to need some help. And with the Georgia Bulldogs, man, I mean, to me, even let's say that Ohio State or Miami loses their games, how can you
well, Georgia's completely out
punish Ohio?
because I mean
Right,
the
like,
fact that they're already out and eliminated, any team that's not in the conference championship does not have a shot to compete in
right,
the playoffs. So at this point, it's like you look at, they're the only 9-1 team, no, 9-3 team that is not in a conference championship game. So they have no
right,
shot. That's the reason why they have to be dead last. The rest of them,
right.
they do got that shot. Baylor, and
They
that's what I
all
said.
have a
Certain
shot. Either
teams,
Baylor does. Yeah,
yeah, and a conference championship will go a long way, and it will help you. But like I said, this is the reason why teams that do have 10 wins, like Miami and Ohio State, it does kind of help them, because there's a chance that those lower end teams, like you look at Penn State, if they're able to upset Ohio State, right? Miami now has higher chances if they lose the game to still have a shot to get in. Well, actually, no, they have to kind of, in a sense, win, because if Ohio State and them lose, Ohio State's over them already. So in that case, yeah. And then not only that, Clemson has the weaker opponent with a 7-5 Clemson team that's ranked 12th. So that doesn't really work in their favor.
and they
But you
beat
could look at
both.
another matchup.
Yeah,
But the matchup that Miami would really want to see happen is for Baylor to lose to Oklahoma. Because if Baylor loses to Oklahoma, at that point, Oklahoma is an 8-win team. Baylor won't be able to reach those 10 wins. And if everyone else who is expected to win wins, now you got a shot to be one of the final four teams. So that already eliminates one of those 5 winners. So yeah, they most likely will end up in the 4, even with a loss because they already got 10 wins. So that's what it helps you out with.
Yeah.
And Ohio State definitely has that shot now too as well, because if any one of those teams are to win, or to those underdog teams with 8 wins, or y'all would want Miami to lose to Clemson, because that helps y'all out for a chance, even if y'all lose, that y'all will be ranked over Miami. So if Clemson is a champ, then that pretty much guarantees Ohio State's in there. So off the rip, as if you're watching that game as Ohio State and Miami drops the ball again to Clemson, I think you're in the playoffs. And then you
Yeah.
also look at, it's either one of those. Any upset that happens in this playoffs, Ohio State is just about in there. So honestly, the only way Ohio State gets out is if they lose and everyone else that's supposed to win wins, which is a
It is
lot.
just chalk, right?
Yeah.
And
So
it's just chalk
and
the
and
rest of the
Miami
way.
has a little less chances in the sense of that because they're under Ohio State. So this is where these rankings are very important as to where they land now, because it has implications as to who's going to be in that Final Four team. So that's the top
Yeah.
25. I'm going to be showing that out, of course, on social media and stuff for you guys to see. But let's go ahead and get a look at the conference championship games coming up now, and give our thoughts on the who we think is going to win. Let me bring this up. That's the wrong one. All right. Let's go with games. All right, here we are. We're in the conference championship. Look, so first conference championship will be a game will be tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, Clemson versus Miami. Clemson and Miami in the ACC championship game. We saw Clemson take down Miami this season, which stopped them from being the current number 1 team. If they won that game, Miami would be number 1 right now. So every single conference championship game, man, is just fire. It's great matchup that you could, the best matchups, honestly, that you could ask for, and rematches for upsets and things like that. So it's dope. I'm trying to go into the Discord right now to see what I had as the spreads. Wait a second for me to get that. Okay, I'm on it right now. So I have Miami getting their revenge this go around. I got them as the 4-point favorites to win the ACC championship.
Really quick before we get into the game, Smitty, I looked into this stat because I was very curious, because in the conference title game, since we have a lower number of teams, there's going to be a rematch every single time. And honestly, for teams like Miami,
What happened?
sorry, someone,
Oh,
for teams like Miami, Ohio State, and Baylor, this stat is not good. Um, or USC or Tennessee, but teams that lost the first matchup going into this game, to try and get their win back, are 5-10.
that's an interesting
So
stat
we have
line.
seen more teams go double up on the year than we have teams getting their win back. The only ones that were UNC and Miami CS4, Alabama and Georgia 2 years in a row, OU and West Virginia in CS3, and UCLA over USC. But man, this is going to be a great game. I mean, the Clemson Tigers, they're on a 5-game winning streak after starting the year 2-5, and I kind of said this earlier in the Warzone channel. It's like, if there's any team besides the ones who have beaten Miami multiple times, if there's any team that can say that has actually been a thorn in Miami's side for the whole entire college series, it's the Clemson Tigers, man. They are 3-3. Miami has beaten them 3 times. The Tigers, man, they have beaten them 3 times as well. And
Ultimate tiebreaker.
they are the only school in the college series that has beaten Miami 3 times. So, and the last game, I mean, if anyone remembers, I mean, Clemson, they couldn't get off the field on offense. Like, they were. it's like every third down, whether it was a 3rd and 10 or a 3rd and 20, they were converting, like, and they had the time of possession and everything, and they played a perfect game. They made Dorian throw the ball a lot, and that's kind of what you want to do against this Miami team. Keep Miami unbalanced. But I think after such a strong emotional win against the Baylor Bears, I mean, this Clemson team, it's been a great year. You guys have wins over the number 1 and 2 teams in the college series as it stands. But I think Miami, they are going to play a balanced game. They're going to get Isaiah Allen the ball. And this is the team that you need Isaiah Allen to run the ball a lot. And I think Miami will get the win, but I don't see Miami covering the spread. Wait, what is the spread again? I think you had it
For
at what?
4 more points.
I think it will be a 3-point game. This game has historically been close in the college series, except for CS2, when Miami got blown out by them twice. But this has been a historically close game. The last 3 games, Smitty, CS3, CS4, and CS5, three-point games. I expect another 3-point game on Thursday night, but I see Miami winning this game and going to the playoffs and winning their second ever ACC title. So
All right, and the following game on Friday. So we're going all the way. Conference championship games are going to be at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern every night, all the way from Thursday to Monday, throughout this week, starting of course tomorrow. Uh, Game number 2, conference championship game number 2, Big 12 championship. Oklahoma taking on Baylor. Baylor trying to get their get back again. Another great matchup. We saw them drop the ball to Oklahoma 24-19 earlier this season, and a huge upset. Now it's all for the marbles, man. This is for everything to try to get that push into the playoffs. Oklahoma, regardless, they're not going to the playoffs even if they win this game, because they only have those 8 wins. But this is why it's big for Baylor, because if they lose this game, they're out as well for sure. So this eliminates any team from the Big 12 going to the national championship if Oklahoma wins. So that right there, I think everyone wants to tune into this game, not only because of the hype around this game due to the trash talk between these two
this
squads,
is yeah,
but
this is a
also
pretty heated game.
the fact that if Oklahoma does win this game, that means anybody else who wins their conference championship is going to the playoffs. So this is going to be a huge game to watch. But I am going to go with the Baylor Bears. I think they get their get back. I think it's going to be another close game, though. I got them winning by 3 or more points.
That's a good thing to bring up, Smitty, because the history of this game, the highest margin of victory out of the 5 times that the Baylor Bears and the Sooners have played is 5 points.
That's just crazy, man. These matchups are just
And
fire,
they
man.
play,
Like, crazy.
yeah. So these are 2 teams that are meant for each other. This whole entire college series, they did meet in the CS2 Big 12 title game. Baylor got the win. But OU, man, they have been here in the Big 12 title game as well. They won it back in CS3. They couldn't beat Baylor in CS2, but they also, they're just an evenly matchup for the Baylor Bears, man. But I said this at the beginning of the year. I think the Sooners team, man, I think Baylor is gonna let the emotions get the best of them here in Dallas. Oh wait, is the ACC title game going to be in Charlotte?
That I'm not sure. Whatever it was last year, I'm using the same odds.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so yes, but in Dallas, man, I don't know, dude. Smitty, I'm going with the Sooners here, man. I
Snap.
think Baylor is gonna let the emotions get to the best of them after that Miami game. We already know trash talk between the schools here, and I think this is one of those things is when you don't respect the team, this is when that team comes and reminds you like, hey, like we have you guys. Like, and yes, Baylor does lead this series all the time, but I just I don't know, man. Something about this Baylor Bears team, they've kind of gone by with an easy schedule the whole entire year. If they are going to win this game, they need to make a statement in this game because the way that they've been talking, they have to make a statement in this game. But I see Avery Rhodes and MSJ, Dylan Lewis, Joe Carter, who's the defensive end, Austin
Austin
Sanders,
Sanders.
if I remember. I think this OU team, I think they just have what it takes to beat the Baylor Bears, man. And I'm going to take them in a 4-point game. I think they will win this game 24-20. So, Sooners, your guys going to ruin the Baylor Bears' dreams again.
All right, so following that game on Sunday night, Pac-12 Conference Championship, you have USC versus Oregon. Definitely should make for a great game as it usually always does. I'm going to take Oregon in this one. I got the Ducks winning by 2 or more points. I feel like it's going to be a closer game than it was when they actually played because, I mean, 48-17 was
Yeah, that
absolutely
was.
atrocious. Dogged the Trojans in that game. But USC's playing much better football, and I am going to give it to the Trojans to be able to make it closer. But Oregon, I still got them as the better team
Oh,
to win.
okay. If there was a game where I'm a neutral viewer, I would say this is the hardest one just because, just like you said, USC in the last few weeks. Yeah, but aside the second half meltdown against Oklahoma State, they started the year 2-2, and they've won 7 of their last 8. USC is playing great football right now, and they just got a very big win over the number one team. And Cinco played his best game, but I don't know, man. Um, I think we talked about this at the beginning. How this was a game where Oregon needed to get the Trojans off their back. USC was 5-0 going into that game, into their first matchup, and Oregon just they exercised some demons in that game. They were making some fumble plays I've never seen before. Like,
A
they
lot of pent
beat
up
up
energy.
on USC. Yeah, they beat up on USC badly, and but I do agree with you that I think this is going to be a closer game. This game will be in Las Vegas, which is always fun. And if you guys remember last year, USC they've been involved in the Pac-12 title a lot, and they've won the Pac-12 title 2 years in a row now. They won it back in CS1. The only time that they lost it was in the Pac-12 title game in CS2. So USC, they have been here before. They also have beaten the Oregon Ducks back in CS3 in the Pac-12 title game. So the Ducks, they are trying to go for their first ever Pac-12 title. And just like I said at the beginning of the year, man, I think this is the year of the Ducks, man. I think they get that win and they make it to the playoffs. And Ronnie Football, Chris Clark, I've already said the names. Jacob Grab, who I didn't mention earlier, I think he's a great player as well. And I think the Oregon Ducks, man, I do think that they will get the win and win their first ever Pac-12 poll. But USC should be not ashamed, especially with how their year has began. I mean, but I think the Ducks get the win here.
All right. So we move on. Big Ten Conference Championship. Talked about this. Ohio State. Last time they lost was against Penn State way back in week 5. And Penn State embarrassed you guys. I mean, it was 30-16. Penn State was looking on top of the world then. Second half of the season started looking real crazy for them as they took losses to Washington, who only won 2 games this season, and Wisconsin. So that actually really ruined their chances of making the playoffs. Even if they are to win this game, they cannot make the playoffs again because they only have those 8 wins, which will only give them 9. So, I mean, there is a chance, unless there's some other upset. Well, not really. No, there's not. So, that's it for Penn State. It's over. I think the only way anyone has a chance is, no, it's not, because it's only one other team that has 8 wins. So, there's no chance for Penn State here. But I'm going with Ohio State for the get back here. I think the Buckeyes especially with the way Penn State has looked lately. Unless we get that old school Penn State, because if we get that coming into this game, that's going to be pretty crazy. I think that's what makes me excited about this game, right? Because at any moment, you never know when a team's going to get back to rare form. And Penn State, when they were in rare form this season, they were doing teams dirty. And they were actually putting up really good performances. Do I have that much faith in Sean Clifford? No, because he's not really that scrambling style in which he's been doing this season. It hasn't been working with him in the later end. And this Ohio State defense has stepped his game up to step their game up to a whole nother level now, with getting the pressure and the sacks, which you talked about. And so I'm going with the Buckeyes by 5 or more points. I believe that is the biggest spread I've got out of any of the games in the conference championship games.
So this is a game that just completely like it was a 14-point win, but it felt like a 28-point
Yeah.
win in week 5. Like this game had everyone thinking, "Oh, Ohio State's not gonna make it back, man. They aren't it again." And Penn State is the real deal. And then the next week, they go and get a last second game winner against that team up north, against them Wolverines, man. But then something just fell apart after the Tennessee game. Like, yes, they lost to Tennessee, but giving up the losses to Washington and
Three
Wisconsin,
game losing
and
streak.
against they right, like after feeling like they were on top of the world, they honestly should have won that LSU game too. Like they had that LSU game until they didn't. Um, but the Maryland game, the UNC game, I mean, yeah, UNC, they needed a last second touchdown to beat the Tar Heels. They did something that Georgia couldn't do.
Oh man.
Sorry, I was
Put the bell out on that one. That's a good bar.
I mean, it's just, but they had a game at the end of the year where they got a layup, to get your team right. And they did. They beat Iowa 38-10. And unlike Georgia, they made the layup, man. And Penn State, man, they are just, they they beat us badly in the last game, and a lot of folks thought this Ohio State team was not that great. But we have seen after 8 games now, Ohio State is still here. They are still here to play. The offense has been on fire. They can weather the storm, whether Dylan Lewis throws 2 or 3 picks a game, it's fine. They're going to be showing up. Um, Brock Frederick, who, in my opinion, is going to be the number 1 overall pick in the RFL draft. He's playing like a stud. Caden Ferragamo's playing great, and Corbin Coase, who I called out at the beginning of the year, has been playing great too. He got a pick in that last game, but just like you said, Ohio State has finally been doing something that they weren't doing at the beginning of the year, which is getting pressures and getting sacks. And Brewer and Wyatt Harris and Russell Shackelford, they've been getting there. Who is the other guy? 74 Wheatley.
Yeah.
I think that's his
Javier
name.
Wheatley.
Yeah, he has been going off. So, in my opinion, I think that I, of course, am going to go with the Buckeyes in this game, but it's going to be close. I think this is going to be a really close game. So, Ohio State, for the 3rd year in a row, they're in the Big Ten title game, going for their 4th ever Big Ten title. So it's going to be fun to watch, man, in my hometown of Indianapolis. So, and it's finally good to not play against that team 2 years in a row like we have. So,
All right. Then we get to the last conference championship, the conference championship game of the week. LSU and Tennessee in the SEC championship game. Winner of this
this
game
is a
going
hard
to the
one.
playoffs. This is definitely going to be a solid one. Last time these guys played, LSU bested them 20-14. It was a good game. I think it's going to be a good game again. And I don't think this is a game, in my opinion, that is going to be a get back game for Tennessee. I didn't like how things ended up that last game, how they looked against USC. Against USC. And we just saw
And even
LSU
LSU
handle
too.
business against Texas A&M. I mean, LSU has been really putting up points as of late. They've been looking very explosive. I think they are the number one team right now in the SEC for a reason. And I got them winning, but of course, I feel like this is going to be another close game between these two. And I got LSU by a field goal or more.
The thing is about LSU is that it feels like with LSU, the better the competition, the better they play. Because just like we have said, they gave up those two losses, to Auburn and South Carolina. But the last 2 weeks, they've scored over 100 points combined these last 2 weeks. And this is a tough one, man. I mean, Tennessee could have been in the same boat as Ohio State and Miami, where it's like, even if we lost to LSU, like this could have been the year where we had two SEC teams in the playoffs, and I honestly would have vouched for it if, let's say, that Tennessee still won and they would have lost this game. If there were certain things that would happen, but now it's all or nothing for the Tennessee Vols, man. And to me, the Mackey Award is still up for grabs. I mean, Aiden's been playing great these last few weeks. He can still go in there and grab it. So can Dorian. Dylan can get a shot, but Tyon, man, like you cannot have a game like you just did against USC. And I know Tyon, he felt that loss this week. He didn't handle the loss well, but he realized, that he needs to be better, and he will and needs to be there for his guys. And I think this is a tough one, man, because I'm on the same boat with you. Because if you look at who LSU has beaten, they have been the teams where if the competition's better, they play great. We saw that in week 3 against the Georgia Bulldogs. We saw them come out of nowhere to beat Penn State. They beat Tennessee and kept them not from scoring 20 points. I mean, this is tough one, Smitty. I'm gonna say LSU, but a little known fact. Tennessee has not been LSU at all in the college series.
Didn't
Not
even know
once.
that
LSU
myself,
has
man.
been the LSU is 4-0 all time against Tennessee. So, but if there is some for you SEC fans, it's not Georgia and Alabama in the SEC title game for a 4th year in a row. You guys are finally seeing two different teams in the SEC title games live in Atlanta. So it's going to be a fun game to watch, man. I'm excited.
And that's another thing
But
just
I have
showing as
LSU
to
winning.
why this college series has been the best in my opinion. Just like so many crazy things have happened this season. Wish, like what was I said, like if it wasn't for so much going on for what we're about to bring to you guys for season 9, definitely would have been more in depth with more content with things like that. Would have called more games, but I mean, I think everyone has still been paying attention to this college series because of how crazy of a season it has been. I can't wait to see who's going to win these conference championships. I can't
The
wait to see who's
upsets
going to
we have
be in the Final
had,
Four.
like,
It's going to be really crazy, man. So, man, shout out to the guys who made it. I can't wait to see who's going to be going to the playoffs. Can't wait for the bowl games. And speaking of the bowl games, we already talked about which teams is out of it. At this point, I guess I'm gonna let you go ahead and announce the games in which you have made for the conference championship. No, for the bowl games so far. So feel free to let the guys know the possible matchups, or at least what we have at the moment. And then after we do that,
so the bowl
well, we already gave
games.
our
Yeah.
well, yeah. After that, well, let's do this before. So since we did look at those conference championship games, who are your 4 teams that you would say right now that you would have if you had to pick? Who are the 4 teams you think is going to make the playoffs?
So just like we talked about, let's see, I'm
I
trying
asked
to
the
look at
chat this
who I
question as well. You
had.
guys go ahead comment in the chat. What 4 teams are making
So
the
the
playoffs this year?
if everything goes the way that it goes, that I'm predicting, I have the Rose Bowl, which how can you not have a Pac-12 versus a Big Ten team? Ronnie football and the Oregon Ducks versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. And then in the Sugar Bowl, this was a big game twice back in CS2, a rematch from one of the highest viewed college series games of all time. Number 3 LSU versus the number 2 Miami Hurricanes in the Sugar Bowl in LSU's hometown, which would make it even interesting.
Even
So
more
that's my
spicy.
college.
So you
Yeah.
got Oregon, Ohio
Versus
State,
Ohio State
Miami,
and
and
Miami
LSU.
versus LSU.
I would have to say the same. I think Dalen Mitchell says USC thinks USC will beat them. But yeah, I'm the same with you there. So shout out to the guys putting in their predictions below. It's interesting to look back on after the stream is done.
No matter what, from what it looks like, if Ohio State and Miami win, the SEC team will get the 3 spot and the Pac-12 team will get the 4. If Ohio State and Miami win their games.
But yeah, well, it does depend because if Tennessee comes out on top with the victory, USC and
Oh, true.
Oregon's on
And
top.
USC, then USC would jump
Yeah, so they would be
Tennessee,
three.
and then what? Then it would be Tennessee versus Ohio State, and then USC versus Miami, which
Yeah,
so Barrio
it's
would
gonna be
love that
real crazy,
matchup.
man. It's gonna be real crazy.
I don't
But
have
yeah,
Calvin Poole playing against Miami anymore, so
all right. So at this point, now that you've given your predictions for who you think will make the playoffs, what are the bowl games that you have set right now for us in the college series?
so do we want to just say the ones that aren't playing in the conference title
Well, you
games?
know what?
Because
Now
there
that I
is
think
one team
about
that's
this, don't even announce it.
we
Let's
can.
save it for next week. Yeah,
Okay,
now that I think about it, I was just like,
yeah.
as a point, but like I want to hype up people for what the bowl game is
Because
going to be.
chaos can still happen. Chaos
Yeah.
can still happen. There's 3 games here that are guaranteed, but chaos can still have. I mean,
But what we can do, at
it can
least
still
announce
happen,
what
sweetie.
are all the bowl games going to be for this year.
So this year, the bowl games that we will have is the Liberty Bowl, the Music City Bowl, and the Outback Bowl. Those are our 3 bowls that are outside the original New Year's Six. And then, of course, we got the Con Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Peach Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and then the 2 playoff games, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. So those are the bowl games that we will be playing at. But if you wanted to know, of course, we have the New Year's Six, but then we have the Outback Bowl, Music City Bowl, and the Liberty Bowl. So a bunch of you guys who are still like for instance, Steve Washington, you'll be playing your final college series game in a pro NFL stage, and you'll find out next week of where it's at. Who's the tight end from Notre Dame? I can't remember his name. Because
Brian
we saw that
Schneider.
they got, you will
Yeah.
be
Oh, I forgot to
playing
announce
a
that.
bowl
Yeah, we
game.
didn't even announce that. But yeah, Notre Dame got
You
in over.
totally forgot
Yeah,
that.
completely forgot that. So I'm glad you brought
Notre
that up.
Dame got over, and I guess if we want to talk about that, Notre Dame's strength of schedule compared to the Texas Longhorns was so much tougher
Hmm.
than what the Longhorns had to
And then to
play
lose to West Virginia like that
against.
last game of the season on top of that is just yeah, you guys don't deserve
Right.
to
It
lose.
was like I would rather see the Fighting Irish in there, who both gave the number 1 and number 2 teams a fight, in a bowl game, than seeing the Texas Longhorns. So,
Yeah,
yeah, the Fighting Irish are in the ACC will have 4 teams in bowl games this year. So,
that's what's up, man.
but yeah,
So
let's save the bowl games, because for all we know, Smitty, chaos can still happen.
yeah. So that's it in terms of the areas we were going to hit on today. We're about to hop off of this, but I just want to also give a league update right now. Here are some things I want to let the community know about that some people already know within the Discord and some of course don't know outside. So about I am also going well, I guess I'm not gonna mention that. Three teams are left. We only have 3 more teams to build, and the college and the RFL Pro Series teams will be completely done. So we're going to be finished building all the teams in the rosters by the end of this week for sure. So I'm excited about that. We've started building it since the beginning of next month to be able to get all of that done on one guy that can work on it at a time within that time, within like 2 months. That's impressive. Very impressive. That's amazing. It's less than 2 months, to be honest. So I want to give a shout out to the guys who were helping me along with that process. We're building these teams. Shout out to Amari Harris, man. Young bull been out there working, man. 3 more years, we'll get you in that adult channel. We got Zeke. Zeke out here, he's been helping, man. We know the partnership we got with him in the PFL now. He's going to become the RFL College Series, man. So shout out to him. Shout out to Olin Shaw for, I know he wasn't used often, but like he still offered his assistance. He helped put together a couple players. And so like still want to give him a shout out for helping. And those were the guys who were hands-on with helping me build the RFL teams. We were just constantly knocking out and getting to work on these teams. And due to the amount of games that I have left to call, since I don't gotta stream no more premier games, now I can knock out the rest of the 3 teams starting today and get them done within 2 to 3 days. So I'm excited about that. I know you guys are going to be excited because you guys already know once that's done, it's the fun part for all the new information and news that will be coming for RFL Season 9. Of course, you won't get that until the end of the College Series season because we're trying to save up and build up the hype for that. And then, of course, the RFL Draft happens in December. So it's a lot that's about to happen here in the RFL, man. If you are not following along in the RFL, man, you are missing out. Yeah, so if you want to be a part of that, make sure you turn on that notification bell, be notified every time we go live for anything on this channel, and follow us on all the various social media platforms so that you can get information that way as well. Whole lot of new changes. We got new open positions for staffing. We got owners now going to be available. We got coordinators now going to be available. The whole landscape of the RFL has completely changed now after this move that we're going to be making to PC. Something we've been trying to do from 3 years ago, but now that finally next gen is on PC, it's about to be crazy for Season 9. I can rest assure you that. Then the College Series. Oh, yeah, something new that's coming is...
No more auto wins.
Yeah, no more auto wins.
No more auto wins.
Yeah, we'll talk more and stuff about that, when the season comes up. But, it's already been announced pretty much when Madden 24 dropped. But definitely not going to be the case. We'll give a lot more of that information out. Also, I want to also confirm that, with talking with Zeke doing this partnership, we do plan on doing multiple seasons within a year where it's nonstop. So now the RFL and the College Series seasons will go on simultaneously. And I made sure that Zeke is able to check and say, hey man, are you sure you could do this? And he, with no doubt, was just like, hey, I could definitely do this. And so now we will be having the College Series season starting up in January and the RFL season starting in January. We already got it mapped out as to how we're going to do streaming. That way we never overlap each other. You guys will have constant RFL content every week, every day, just about, man. Tuesdays are going to suck because that's our off days and you ain't going to have no RFL content. But, Wednesdays on, it's going to be a lot going on, man. College football is going to take over Saturday like it does in real life. RFL pro football is going to take over Sunday like it is in real life. Like, dude, we are working. It's about to get crazy. So I'm just letting you guys know about those things. And also because of that simultaneous season, we will be opening up applications sometime next month. So make sure that you stay on the lookout on our social media pages for that, because that's where the announcement will be made and you guys will be able to fill it out then. So CS7 6 is going to be still on a mod. That mod will be on Madden 24 though. So we're going to have next gen gameplay before we get the new NCAA game. So it's just even more fire, man. It's going to be crazy. The gameplay, we've been playing on current gen Madden since season 1 for 5 years, man. Now we're about to be on next gen gameplay in January. Next gen gameplay with this Madden 24 gameplay on an RFL with no auto wins and everything like Pecan just said. Crazy creativity, customization, bro. Like, yo, I'm very excited for the RFL. I know you guys are going to be like, yo, this league is taking this next step officially to, like, it already was up there at the top, but now it's like, it's done for, man. We're definitely going to be putting in some crazy work and having some awesome content in the future, guys. So don't miss out on that. Make sure if you're not part of the RFL today that you join as soon as you can. And of course, again, that information will be getting posted out soon, more than likely starting next month. We're still working on a few things, but you guys will get all of that information. So that's it for the podcast. We can take, we can still make this a 2 hour long podcast by taking open questions for the next about 15 minutes. But if you guys don't have anything in the chat to ask me or Pecan, then we'll just roll out of here. So we're going up until 10:30. It's 10:15 right now. But if nobody says anything, we'll roll out earlier. So ask away if you guys got any questions.
I do have a question. When do you want to open up the declarations for the draft for the guys? I'm trying to remember when we
Oh,
did that
oh
last year.
shoot! I was actually supposed to do that on Tuesday. I'm gonna do it tonight then. So that's gonna open. I'm gonna open that up
Okay.
tonight.
All
Yeah,
right. All right. All right.
I
Yeah.
was
I
supposed to do
was
that
one.
yesterday.
Yeah, because I was
Completely
wondering.
forgot. Yeah. So anybody who's interested, who's in the college series right now, and you're declaring for the RFL draft, you have until the national championship to declare for the RFL draft. If you do not within that time,
Yeah,
even if
because
you're a
this is
minute late,
yeah,
because
this
I'm
is the
punctual,
time.
like this is how I operate. If you are even a minute late to declare, you will not be in the RFL draft. So make up your
Don't be a
mind,
Denver
take your time. You still
Costa.
have, yeah, don't be like Denver. You still have all the way up until then, until the national championship game is over, to apply to officially declare. And I will actually give you guys all the way up until 11:59 that entire day, even after the game is over. If you guys don't at that time declare, don't even ask me about getting into the RFL draft. You will have to either return or you're gonna have you mad and leave. It is what it is. So that's we'll open that up. You got anything else?
And if you're wondering of what day that is, guys, looking at the schedule, that
Championship
looks like
game will
it's
be
going
on
to
a Sunday.
be November 12th. So you guys literally have 2.5 weeks. And if you don't do it in that time, that's on you.
Yeah,
You
and if
literally have
you're
until
been one of those
November
inactive
12th.
guys and you're just now watching this or you watch it late, I have no pity for you. I'm sorry. That means you weren't paying attention anyway. So we don't want those guys
Hey,
coming into the pros anyway. So it is what it is. You lose out, it is what it is. So you better get your guys right and tell them, hey, be prepared, be ready to declare if you want to.
and Smitty will also create a line for the CS5 guys as well to separate from the CS4 players in that channel. So
Yeah. Let me see. Wait, that's a lot of questions because I thought the first question I thought I
yeah,
saw was from like
some
Pat. Oh, he says, when is the draft day?
first.
I do not have the official draft day. I have to still make a lot of the content first. So I still have to make the draft cards and all of that. And I have to, of course, wait until the season is done to even start building a lot of that. So it's TBA right now. And it says CPU team's going to smash these coaches. Hey, yeah, you already know that's the plan, man. We don't have too many left, but soon it's about to be an increase. I could guarantee you that. It says
Minoy.
says I'm getting tired of Q using that emotion. That's a good time for me to draft.
Oh, he
Hashtag no
trashed
foul.
him earlier, dude. He trashed him earlier. It was pretty funny. I was dying.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah, let's play the bell for that comeback Q just had on Rodney.
Yeah, I was dying over that.
Says
Oh, I see
will
one
we
about
have
the
Oh
yeah.
yeah, that's something. I'm glad you brought that up. So I plan on at the fastest I can hurry up and finish these teams. Um, I'm trying to hope I could get that done before I finish out, of course, the conference championship games. Um, I'm gonna try to build the 4 teams right that are going to be in the playoffs, so that way the entire playoffs can be on next gen. If it's not possible for me to do that at that point, then I'm just going to do it for the national championship game. So there will be a sneak peek pretty much of CS6 gameplay, RFL season 9 gameplay in the playoffs. So that's what I'm going to do. If I can't get the teams done at the time and I figure out who's going, then at that point, I'm just going to you know, do the national championship at the least. Um, will
Do they have the
upgrades
national
be available to?
championship mod?
Yeah, they do.
Do,
But it's
okay.
last year still. It's just tonight.
So it's in Indy.
I think so. If it was last year,
Let's go.
that
Let's
boy hype is
go.
on the way. That will
My hometown
upgrades
again.
be available to do? Yeah, I'm gonna open up upgrades to tonight, so I'll do that.
Yeah, I was wondering because there was a few Ohio State guys that were wanting to do some, and I was like, I'll find out. So,
Yeah. I also said you can. It says no. You declare.
oh, Lindo just asked about the since we're gonna be doing this later. He
Another
said, "How
thing.
about the transfer portal?"
Transfer portals. We're not doing any of that until player applications and stuff opens up. So we want to finish out
When do
this
you want
year.
to go over the schools
That's
about the whole?
exactly what I was about to pull up right now. Uh, so let me see. All right, so with the new season that's going to be coming up, we will be in franchise mode, and since it is on Madden 24, uh, they have made only a certain amount of teams, and it doesn't seem like they're going to have the other rest of the teams that we usually have made before we start the season. So, with that being said, most of the teams that make up the college series are still there, but there will be 7 new teams, which means 7 teams currently in the college series has to drop off. The 7 new teams that are coming is Colorado, Michigan State, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, North Carolina State, Oregon State, Texas Tech, and Utah. Utah was a part of the college series before. Um, Oregon State, I believe they were as well. I'm not sure. I don't think Oregon State ever was. Ole Miss was, Mississippi State was, Michigan State was. First time Colorado's ever been a part of that. So those are some teams are returning from the past. But these are the teams that are going to be gone from this year's college series, unfortunately, at least for a season CS6 that'll start in January. West Virginia will be dropped off. Arizona State, Stanford, South Carolina, Maryland, Louisville, and the worst hit of them all is Baylor is going to be officially gone. That's the biggest locker room or slash brotherhood, as you could say, in the RFL college series. So that was, of course, the biggest hit out of these losses. For teams that are a part of those teams, if you're choosing to stay, unfortunately, you will have to transfer. And if you transfer before, it's a free transfer, so you don't have to worry. You can transfer elsewhere. So that's what's going to happen in CS6. You'll have franchise mode too, where your stats will already be held up. We'll be revealing all that stuff for you. And you guys are going to have a lot more access to be able to see what's going on in the college series as that's going on. Let's see what else they got here.
Baylor Bears, man, gone. So this is huge for them. If there's anything for the Baylor Bears, man, this is your final season until summer of 2024.
Yep, to try to make it to the
So this
playoffs.
this is
Never done it
huge.
before. Is y'all shot. Y'all got to take down Oklahoma, which you got a good shot too. Well, and what would that do? Because they're still ranked 7th. So, I mean, that's tough.
They
That's
still
tough.
need some chaos to happen.
Y'all would
Yeah.
need an upset. Y'all would still need an upset, which is still possible.
Wait, you did say that Washington State is coming back, right?
Not Washington State.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, I'm trying to remember who was the other school.
Mississippi State, Michigan State.
That's right. And they were, yep, they were in the college series. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to find any other questions. I think somebody asked about combine. I'll let you handle that one. When will we see combine photos and stuff like that? Trying to remember
I still
who.
have to build all you. Like I said, it's still a lot of process, man. This stuff
Yeah.
is going to take a minute. Shout out to ESJ man who was building the uh the rosters like a draft class file and just building you guys in there so that way we can have the rest of the guys that weren't a part of the college series obtainable for coaches so they can draft those guys. Um, what I'm going to do is with that file, I'm going to in a sense try to hurry up sim in the future or something, then get those combine results and stuff like that, then send them out to coaches so that way they know that the guys who aren't in the college series, this is how they performed. So we're going to be having that. There's no set date yet as to when that stuff will get posted. Like I said, the draft, it's just going to be me straight working on that, trying to make sure it's set to happen in December. I'm aiming somewhere towards the middle of December to start that draft up, though. We got 5 more minutes here. Let's see if we got any other questions. Did transfer? Pat just saying anything. Wrong sport, right? Teams that won't be there.
Oh, Ronnie's just sick in the chat with the whole Baylor news.
This guy knew this for a whole week.
I know. He was the one that had to go tell them the news, if you remember. Jojo Carter is asking if there's going to be an all-star game.
Yes, I do want there to be an all-star game. That should be possible. Cause I got the rosters. Now all we got to do is just make the teams, and then ooh, I
Will
think
we
there's
have enough time in between them?
yeah, I think there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it. All I got to do is make a uniform mod with the mod, and then just put the all-star players, create that as a separate roster, and put that on to be overtaken by the mod that we create with the uniforms for East and West All-Star game, and yeah, should be able to get that done. All we need is uniforms made, honestly, then, and that should be a possibility. I'm aiming for that.
I
No
hope
guarantee, but I'm about 90% sure we'll have an all-star game.
I just saw a comment that CP just made that I think I would absolutely love, especially with FSU. Baylor Bears, if you want a good spot to go to FSU, man. Give yourselves a real, if you guys want that real rivalry with the Miami boys, go to FSU and try to help out ESJ because he is the only guy from a Florida State team that can say he has been Miami, which was back in CS1. Every other year, they have mollywopped them every year. I think that's a good spot if you're a Baylor Bear to go. So
Yeah,
that's
so
been the only time that FSU's been competitive.
yeah, Oregon State. I knew Oregon State was a part of the college series before. I thought sure we had them. All right, we got 2 more minutes. I'm not. I think I caught up on all the questions so far.
Smitty, which game do you think is going to be the best game of the 5? Like, which one do you
LSU
think has the
Tennessee.
most potential?
That one's very entertaining to me. That's why it's the game of the week. I think that's going to be fire. All of them's going to be fire, to be
I
honest.
think
But that one's
I
going to be.
think Oregon and USC to me is going to be like that game where it's like this team scores, this team scores.
You
I
can
think the
pick either
Oregon
or
USC
for real.
game.
Like all the games are heat.
Yeah.
Uh, that's why I love like this season has just been top notch. Uh, Not sure. It could be possibly the middle of January that the season starts, but depending on how much work gets done, like I said, it's pretty much got 2 months. Uh, we'll see.
Yeah, because you pretty much just got to add the draft players.
That
Then
ain't easy though.
next, really,
I
once you
will
know
say
the
so.
roster. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
true.
that
No,
stuff
because
takes time
that's
because I gotta
200 and
yeah.
that's 232 players.
I still
So
have to create all these players in the new mod which means like none of the rookies
Yeah.
are even built yet. I have to create all the guys in that draft class that Eric pretty much gave. That's like you break down 400 prospects by 50. What's that? That's like
Yeah.
split that in half. That's 8
'Cause then you
teams.
got
That's
the
like creating
undrafted
8 RFL
guys. Yeah.
teams. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna take a lot for real.
So
So
now
doing
we
that,
gotta know. You guys literally have until November 12th, boys.
yeah.
November 12th. Literally enough time to know. Oh, and if you're still a college player and you got your last do we want to do upgrades for anybody that's not in a bowl game? Would you say anybody who does
Nah,
declare
this is only for anybody who's in a bowl
like a
game. Yeah, because your
bowl
season, if you
L
didn't, your
yeah.
season ended just last week. So you guys can't upgrade.
Yeah.
Anybody who's in a bowl game or a conference championship game, you can upgrade.
Okay.
And that's it, man. We've reached 10:30. I appreciate you guys, man, tuning into the RFL College Series podcast, man. Pecan, good to have you back on to my guy to discuss some things. 2-hour long podcast with some very vital information, man. It was a great one. We will see you guys next Wednesday for the results of who our conference champions are and who's going to be the final 4 teams in the national championship, and of course the bowl game matchups. But with that being said, it's your boy Smitty, RFL commissioner and play-by-play commentator, along with Pecan, the Don, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Why is that up?